on the real estate sector, because there's definitely a relief package that the street is expecting. Whether it comes or not, only time will tell. But the street is expecting some solutions for stalled housing projects, as well as a demand for a stressed fund that could be created to deal with, the bailout situation as well as the stalled housing and infrastructure projects. Irfan Razack, the chairman and MD of Prestige Estates, and Anuj Puri, the chairman of Anarog, join us to discuss the health of the sector and what their expectations are. Mr. Razack, let me start with you. There are several demands that the street and the industry has, but in your opinion, what's the more feasible and realistic solution that the ministry can come up with?
Good morning. Actually, a lot has been talked about trying to revive this sector, but I think the government does need to do something about it. And the most important aspect is, which people don't realize, that this sector is taxed almost 40%. That means the customer who's buying into this product is actually paying, every rupee he spends, he's paying, or he or she is paying 40 paisa as taxes. Now that needs to be relooked. Now when I say taxes, because input credit has been taken off straight away, you've got a tax hit of about 18%. Then there is the 5% GST anyways, which is the customer is paying. Then you have stamp duty. And the other part is when we are saying that the properties are not selling, or when people are talking about the high prices to come down, the state governments are continually increasing the guideline value, and hence the stamp duty quantum keeps going up. And it also has other repercussions like paying income tax for notional income and all of these things. I think these are the things that you need to look at it from a larger picture, larger perspective. And I think a simplistic and a very easy way to do it is keep, sort of roll up the GST and stamp duty into one and make it into a single point tax. Give the input credit benefit to the developers. You're bringing down the cost. Ultimately, when the cost comes down, the customer gets a relief and is able to afford to buy a house. Today, when a customer buys, say, a 2 crores house, he's going to pay some 30-40 lakhs as tax, and that is where the big problem is. And that is a big hit for the consumer at the end. And that is where the whole stress is coming. Yes, the other part is we keep talking about high levels of debt. We keep talking about stressed assets. And this is a function of demand and supply. And I do believe that, real estate is not something that you can wish away or create in a day. Now, there's a time lag for it. Now, it takes 3 to 5 years for any project to start to finish. Now, what needs to be done here is, now everybody knows that the demand is, is a bit slow. So what really happens is whatever was being built or is getting built will get consumed because there are no new projects coming in or no new products coming into the market. So ultimately, I believe that this will sort of equalize itself. And I don't see any major stress in this, except that some relief should be given to the developers who are in a bit of a stress to restructure their loans and see that they go to the end. Because ultimately, once the product is ready for delivery, it will sell, and it will sell at a price.
Yeah.
And then the entire stress gets relieved.
Yeah, Mr. Razack, we'll come to you. We are coming to you in a minute. You made 2 points. One, that there could be a bit of GST relief, rolling GST and stamp duty into a 1-point tax so that there is an ease of administration as well. We have to recognize that the government has not got deep pockets at this point in time because it is facing lower taxes, and practically every segment from autos to biscuits to real estate is asking for a tax cut. It may be a little unrealistic to expect. So what else can we expect? Anuj Puri is also with us. Anuj, one argument on tax has been very well effectively made. I just feel that it's a little difficult to deliver. But what about the stressed asset package? This NBCC idea is working very well in the Amrapali case. More of that, you think?
So, Lata, I do agree with what Mr. Irfan has said, is that on the government premiums, they need to come down. Otherwise, the cost will not come down. That's one thing. I think there are 3 or 4 more things, and I'll touch on these stalled projects and the stressed assets. I think where the sector is really finding difficulty today to cope up is liquidity, because the NBFCs are just not willing to give any money to the real estate. And these projects are now half completed without any more liquidity coming in there. My fear is that will unnecessarily hype up the further stalled assets, and the confidence level will then start to go down. We saw that in the NCR, where there were a large number of stalled projects. The confidence went down. So the first ask would be is to try and bring in the liquidity. The second is to
Anuj, sorry to interrupt you, but how do you bring in liquidity? I know there is a request for a stressed fund as well, and 10,000 crores is the amount that is sought. But once again, coming back to that point, the government has has limited resources. Private sector funding has also completely dried up. So even if liquidity is improved, what do you think the government can do?
So, just after the global financial crisis in 2008, we saw a one-time settlement scenario that came in, which allowed the financiers to do one-time settlement with the developers, in a way recasting their loans to give them a little bit more relief. Today, because the developers are not being able to pay the interest, they are being treated as NPAs. Yeah. That is what we are asking, that can you extend that and give them a bit of a relief? That brings in liquidity. With the liquidity, the projects which are likely to get stalled do not get stalled, and they get delivered. I think your point is very valid, is that what do we do with these already stalled projects? How do we bring the confidence back in? Has the NBCC Amrapali Supreme Court case helped? I think it is a fantastic ruling, what Supreme Court has been able to do. But, Lata, we need to see is that how this will actually culminate, because we've not yet seen the progress of that. Supreme Court had given 60 days. That has not come to an end. We want to see at the end of the 60 days whether the buyers did pay their balance installments or not. At this moment in time, we have not seen that installment going in. Yeah. And if the installment doesn't go through, then NBCC has no money to complete it.
That's true. Actually, Anuj, we're running out of time. So, Mr. Razack, a minute more for you to tell us how you can design this stressed asset fund. Apparently, the government is thinking of something where the NHB may put in a bit of money, and private funders may put in money, and builders like NBCC may act like the resolution professional. Something like that will work, you think?
No, as I've said this earlier, once you complete the asset, once you complete the product, because I've seen many products.
But how do you complete?
I mean, you need to bring in that money, and then this is where the government can step in and say, pump in some liquidity. Even the buyers who are now fighting shy and not paying the balance monies, even they have to pitch in, because ultimately it's, you're saving the money that you've already invested in. And it is very easy to say, but it's a tough thing to do. But then the only thing is there has to be some sort of a special fund that needs to be set up to complete these assets. And I believe you me, once these assets are completed, all relief will come. They will, the entire problems will get dissolved. But the issue is how, and it's very easy to say, but difficult to implement it.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We've completely run out of time, but some really important points that you guys put on board.